Thank you, Mr Chair. And I speak in support of this motion before us today. Mr Chair, this motion is about basic council infrastructure, backflow devices, infrastructure that should have been built over a decade ago, as we have heard from Councillor Johnston today. This LNP administration has been in power, as we know, for a very long time, too long, in my view, and their track record when it comes to the installation of backflow devices in our city is abysmal. Mr Chair, we know the locations, we know they are feasible, we have had experts tell us so over 10 years ago. Yet the lack of care and consideration for the flood-impacted residents in this city is appalling by the Lord Mayor, Adrian Schrinner, and his entire LNP team. Mr Chair, when this LNP council have been criticised about their lack of action on backflow devices, particularly in my area, their response has been, and we heard from Councillor Davis, oh well, it was only 10 people who those devices would have benefited. 10 people. I'm not sure if anyone on the other side of the chamber, perhaps with the exception of Councillor Wines, who has resided in my area, has actually visited Lindsay Street in Hawthorn. But I can assure this chamber that that location alone, that number 10 is absolutely farcical. There are around 30 properties, not people, 30 properties with impact from backflow flooding in that one location alone in Hawthorn. Mr Chair, the question I think for this council is why have those residents and their properties not been prioritised by this LNP administration? Why did these residents who have seen mud and water and the loss of property not once, not twice, 3 times over the flood event in the days leading up to the major event and also in the following days, why did they get left behind by this council? They pay their rates, they have a reasonable expectation for basic services, but yet again they've been ignored. Mr Chair, in my local area back in 2013, many residents pleaded with the then Lord Mayor Graham Quirk, and I've seen the letters and the emails, to prioritise the installation of these devices. They also petitioned council at the time. Empty promises were made. They have letters that they've shown me from council promising these devices were going to be installed, but zero delivery. In the last week, once again, we've seen over 150 residents so far sign my petition calling on this council to not only review the use of backflow devices in my local area and install the devices that were feasible back in 2012, which is what this motion again calls for today. Today is this council's opportunity to finish the job. That's what Councillor Johnston wants. Do the right thing and finish the job for the people of the city. Mr Chair, residents are right to question what went wrong in this flooding event and why this LNP council failed yet again to deliver basic infrastructure for our city. And they failed to learn the lessons of 2011. The Morningside ward has one of the highest number of development applications in the city, yet we are not seeing the flow of those infrastructure charges into basic services like backflow devices. Instead, this LNP administration would prefer to spend ratepayer funds on their shameless self-promotion, telling residents what they already knew in the week following the flood event. They sent out Living in Brisbane at a cost of over $100,000, money that could have been spent on backflow devices. I have no doubt that the LNP want to crow about the devices that they have installed in a handful of locations, and they have installed some, but not all. And if we have a really close look at where those devices were installed, particularly in the last couple of years, those facts are absolutely shocking. In the last financial year, does anyone have any idea how many backflow devices were installed in our entire city? 100? 50? 20? 10? 1. One backflow device in Victoria Street, Windsor. How about the current financial year? The 2021-22 financial year. Any other guesses? 1. 1 again. Walton Street and Dutton Park. So from a $3.6 billion budget, we've had 1 device in 2020-2021 and 1 device in the current financial year. That's just appalling. There's no excuse for that level of neglect. And there is absolutely no one else to blame. The LNP have been in power the entire time. There has been zero political will to install this basic infrastructure for the people in the city. So today, or tonight, Labor will be supporting this motion, and we thank the Councillor for Tennyson, Councillor Johnston, for bringing this motion, and also for being such a strong advocate in this place for her local community, not just today, but over the last 10 years. Throughout this flood event, she has worked tirelessly to stick up for her local community, and not once has this LNP-controlled council acknowledged her efforts. Instead, they call the police on her. They call the police on her, and now there's laughter from that side of the chamber. That's a funny thing, that someone comes into this place with good intentions to advocate for their community, and they call the police. So, Councillor Johnston, thank you for your advocacy when it comes to backflow devices, not just today, but consistently over the last 10 years. Labor actually values your contribution in this place, and I know your residents do as well. So I encourage all councillors in this place to support this motion today.